In review of the last video on retention, we had talked about what happens when you understand the yogic force of prana, which goes up, and the other force, apana, which goes down, right? So the problem with not retaining is all this magnetic fluid is constantly being pulled down this apana, living in an aponic state, always getting depleted. Now, when you're constantly depleted, you're more irritable, you're weaker. As a man, you can be more thirsty, you can be desperate, you can come off as needy. It can happen because the sperm never matures inside the body, which takes time. Now, if you could make it a month, not only would you be a believer, but you'd be amazed at how good life is. You know, I wasn't sure when I started, but once I discovered that I was on my game every time, far more on point otherwise. Now, as I'd mentioned in the last video, this is why Shaolin monks, they retain most of their lives in the temple, if not all their lives. And look at them, they shine, they glow, because they're producing a frequency, an electromagnetic frequency around their body, which affects everything in their presence, but they're very peaceful, so everything in their presence improves because they are in harmony with nature. This is called creation of the golden sphere, and this is done through retaining, okay? Retaining the sacred fluid. So once again, it does not mean suppressing. It means controlling. These are two completely different things. So once you've built for a long time and withheld, if you release it, it starts to build back up faster, okay? So you will regenerate faster through holding. Now, the other thing that goes hand in hand with this is the ice bath. Now, this, usually you'll get an instant reaction of disdain on people's faces when you mention this, especially in the winter time when it's cold. An ice bath will concentrate all of that energy and it will help you build it up. It'll give a shock. So if you're retaining and doing a regular ice bath, everything's gonna change. I mention this to people and they talk to me like, they're like, I'm not doing that, that's crazy. But you know what? During the winter time, they're cold and they're hacking and they're coughing. So if you want results, you have to put in a certain amount of work. Now, these things disappear when you start retaining, when you start really understanding the power you can create in your body. Because as I said, you're stronger, you're smarter, you operate better, faster. And the longer you retain, the easier the control you have over it, and you find yourself as a man avoiding the things that tempt you, right? Avoiding hooking up with women in meaningless encounters, avoiding the computer, looking at stuff like that, channeling the force up. So it starts when you feel the urge coming down, start to imagine it going up and out. And if you do this, life will start to become unrecognizable. It'll be amazing. It will help you become more successful and move into abundance, okay? So this is the fire element. So what happens to this mass, this extra mass, someone who's really heavy, overweight, obese, that starts retaining? Well, over time, the more they retain, a lot of this fat starts to burn off, especially if they're exercising and dieting even faster. But nonetheless, it's an excellent start. So when this is impurities, all of this extra mass, so the fire element, we're gonna burn those impurities up. And this is what creates the lean, ripped, toned body that is shredded, okay? So this mass is gonna be burned up and turned into energy, non-physical energy, and we call that energy ojas, O-J-A-S. Look it up. Ojas creates fire, or tejas is the Sanskrit word. Glow. If you read about the path of purification, Visuddhimagga, Vajrayana, some of these Tibetan practices, Vajrayana rather, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly. Thunderbolt vehicle, creating heat in the body and resonating out. Tibetan monks melting the snow in the Himalayas with nothing but a loincloth on, that type of thing. So, all these things are very possible. If you can learn how to heat your body, you can insulate your epidermis. Watch Wim Hof. This is where I learned about the ice bath. They put him in a tank of ice for 2 hours and his blood temperature didn't drop at all because he can heat his body. He explains it in his book, and you can do it if you're dedicated. It just takes some work. So, remember, if you're able to retain for a while, you'll start to see all kinds of things happen and things will come to you. So, when we talk about the ether, the space between atoms, the fifth element, often spelled as A-E-T-H-E-R. The space between atoms, space waiting to be filled. So if 95% of existence is empty space, there's only 5% matter, so there's a lot of space to fill. So when you resonate this frequency, the bigger your electromagnetic frequency, the more of your potential you start to fill. So we're expanding our electromagnetic frequency, our bioenergetic field. And this is what changes everything. Now you gotta have a good still mind. You gotta have good control over your senses. But as I said, this practice will help to teach you how to further it. It will teach your body, it will send you to certain types of knowledge. You won't even understand, why am I looking at this? Boom, wow, mind blown. Happens all the time. So, if you found this second part of the path of destruction for men, turning the tides, getting ripped and shredded part 2, informative, click the like button. Even better, subscribing. We appreciate you on Patreon. All right, we'll see you soon in the next video. We'll get more physical then. Sifu Les Clements out. Thanks for watching.